the hallway went silent. You could hear lockers slam, whispers rise, and the cruel laughter of 3 bullies echo down the corridor. They cornered Maya against the wall, ripping at her clothes as the students around froze in shock. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from anger she had tried to bury for years. That was the last straw. The girl they thought was weak was about to show them a side they never expected. Maya had always been quiet, the type of student who kept to herself. Her father had moved their family from another city after her mother's passing, hoping a new start would help them heal. But Maya's silence became the target for cruel kids who thought her grief made her vulnerable. They whispered names, pushed her in the cafeteria line, and spread rumors about her. For months, she endured everything. She promised her father she would stay out of trouble, so she swallowed her pain, letting the bullying pile up like a storm waiting to break. But Maya wasn't ordinary. Since childhood, her father, an ex-military man, had trained her in self-defense and combat skills. It wasn't for violence, but for discipline and survival. She grew up sparring in their garage, sweating through kickboxing routines, and learning to control her strength. Her father always told her, never start the fight, Maya, but if they cross the line, make sure you finish it. That lesson now echoed in her mind as the bullies tugged at her clothes, laughing in front of everyone. When the fabric tore, the crowd gasped. That moment burned something deep inside her. Maya's eyes turned sharp, her body stiffened. The bullies didn't notice the change, until she moved. In a flash, Maya grabbed the wrist of the first bully and twisted it behind his back with such force he cried out in pain. Gasps erupted in the hallway. Before the second bully could even react, Maya's leg swung in a clean roundhouse kick, knocking the phone out of his hand, the one he was using to record her humiliation. The phone shattered against the floor. The laughter was gone. The third bully, bigger than the others, lunged forward. But Maya's fists moved with precision. A sharp jab to his chest, followed by a hook, left him stumbling backward into the lockers. The hallway now roared, not with cruelty, but with shock and awe. No one had ever seen Maya like this before. She wasn't just defending herself, she was dismantling every ounce of cruelty thrown her way. For the first time, the bullies looked afraid. They scrambled, holding their arms up, begging her to stop. Maya stepped forward, breathing hard, eyes blazing, but then she froze. Her father's words rang again, control, Maya. Real strength is knowing when to stop. She loosened her fists and let them go. The bullies ran, humiliated, bruised, and stripped of their power. The same crowd that once watched her suffer now stared at her with respect, admiration, and even guilt for never stepping in before. But Maya didn't feel victorious just yet. Her clothes were torn, her heart still heavy. She walked calmly to the restroom, patched herself as best as she could, and lifted her chin high when she came out. Whispers followed her, but this time, they weren't cruel. They were words like, "Did you see that?" and "She's unstoppable." The principal later called Maya in after hearing about the fight. The bullies had already spun their side of the story, but for the first time, other students stepped up for her. Dozens of them spoke the truth, how Maya had been targeted for months, how she was provoked, and how she finally stood her ground. For once, Maya wasn't alone. The bullies were suspended. Maya received a warning, but the principal's eyes softened as he said, "You should have never been put in that position. You showed them what courage looks like." At home, Maya's father listened quietly as she told him everything. His eyes filled with pride and sorrow all at once. He hugged her tightly and said, "I trained you to protect yourself, not to fight battles you should never have had to face. But today, you reminded everyone that respect is earned, not demanded." From that day forward, no one dared lay a hand on her. The same students who once mocked her now looked up to her. Maya didn't become arrogant, she stayed quiet, humble, and strong. But deep down, everyone knew the quiet girl they tore down had risen as a fighter, and no one would ever see her as a victim again. Her story spread through the school like wildfire. Not because of the punches or kicks, but because of the courage she showed in the face of humiliation. Maya's strength wasn't just in her fists, it was in her heart. She proved that even the most broken soul can become unbreakable when pushed too far. And the message that lingered long after the fight was clear. Never mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes the quietest people hold the loudest power. The sound of laughter echoed down the hallway. But it wasn't the good kind, the kind that warms you. It was sharp, cruel, and aimed at just one person, Maya. She kept her head down, clutching her books, praying she could make it to her next class without trouble. But trouble always seemed to find her. 3 girls, notorious for picking on anyone different, blocked her path. "What's the matter, quiet girl? Can't even look at us," one sneered, pushing her shoulder. The others circled, smirking as if it were a game. Students nearby pretended to check their phones, too scared to interfere. Maya stood frozen. She had endured this treatment for months, dirty whispers, cruel jokes, things written on her locker. Every day felt like survival. She told herself to endure, to stay invisible. But today would be different.